Hello, good day, and welcome to Media TV editorial. I am Victoria, broadcasting from Canada, and these are the top stories. UN reject Ethiopian attempt to deny funds for Tigray probe. Protester killed as Sudanese rally against coup economic crisis. Russia blocks buses heading to Mariupol, says Ukraine. Bringing you this in detail after the short break. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome back from that short break. Now news in detail. The UN Powerful Budget Committee rejected an attempt by Ethiopia on Thursday to deny funding for an investigation of human rights violation in the war between Ethiopian government forces and fighters from the country's northern Tigray region. A brief resolution proposed by Ethiopia in the General Assembly Budget Committee against approving resources for a team from the Geneva-based Human Rights Council to scrutinize abuses during the 16-month war was defeated by a vote of 27 to 66 with 39 abstentions. The committee did approve resolution recommending 14 positions for the Ethiopia investigation. Louis Champion, UN Director at Human Rights Watch, said UN member countries sent a strong message to Ethiopia today that its brazen attempt to escape accountability for war crimes and other abuses by defunding the UN human rights investigation is unacceptable. The UN should quickly get the investigation up and running, he says. The need of the victims and their families as great as ever over Ethiopian objection. The Human Rights Council voted in December to create an international team of experts to monitor and report on rights abuses in the country. Month of political tension between Ethiopia Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed government and the Tigray leaders who once dominated Ethiopian government exploded into war in November 2020. The war is believed to have caused the death of tens of thousands of people and the displacement of millions. Although the war has subsided in several places, notably within the Tigray and Amhara regions, concern remain in the northern eastern Afar region. Aid into the Tigray region has been severely limited under what the United Nations described as a de facto humanitarian blockade. On March 24th, the Ethiopian government announced what is called an indefinite humanitarian truce in Tigray, saying the action was necessary to allow unimpeded relief supplies into the area. The government statement said Tigray forces must reciprocate the truce for the humanitarian situation to improve in the region. It urged fighters loyal to Tigray fugitive leaders to desist from all acts of further aggression and withdraw from areas they have occupied in neighboring regions. It was not clear if the immediate humanitarian terms was a step towards comprehensive ceasefire. Government has faced growing international pressure to ease restriction on the flow of humanitarian aid into Tigray. Moving on to the other story, protesters killed as Sudanese rally against coup economic crisis. The Sudanese protester has been killed as thousands rallied against last year's military coup and worsening living conditions, Medes says. The Central Committee of Sudanese Doctors identified the victim as 23-year-old Asema Rasso, who was shot in the chest by a live bullet during an anti-coup demonstration in the capital Khartoum on Thursday. His death brings to 93 the number of people killed in crackdown on mass protests, which began after Army Chief General Abdel Fattah Burhan led a military coup on October 25th, according to a talk kept by the committee, an independent group of medics. Authorities are still using deadly violence against revolutionaries, the committee added. In addition to protests being killed and wounded, some 200 have been detained by security forces since the start of the crackdown. Multiple political figures and anti-coup activists are among those who have been killed. The United States has already imposed sanctions on Central Reserve Police, accusing it of using excessive force against peaceful protesters. The military should go back to the barracks, protesters in Khartoum chanted, "Down with the government of anger," they added. The military power grab drew wide international condemnation and upended the transition to civilian rule that had followed the 2019 out of longtime leader President Omar al-Bashir. Moving on to the last story, Russia blocks buses heading to Mariupol, says Ukraine. Fresh effort underway to evacuate civilians trapped by Russian forces in the Ukrainian city of Mariupol. Ukrainian Deputy Prime Minister Irina Vereshchuk said a convoy of 45 Ukrainian buses was on its way to the besieged southern city. She said the International Committee of the Red Cross had confirmed that Russia had agreed to open a humanitarian corridor to Mariupol. Tens of thousands of civilians remain there after weeks of bombardment. Ms. Vereshchuk also accused Russian troops of blocking the bus convoy at checkpoint near Vasika, 3 hours drive from Mariupol earlier in the day. The Russia Federation again does not lack our buses past, she told the Ukrainian news agency. The Russian Defense Ministry said the United Nations Refugee Agency and the Red Cross would assist in the evacuation of civilians. The evacuation was initially planned for Thursday, but the Red Cross has since told Reuters that for logistical and security reasons, the evacuation will now happen on Friday. It said a ceasefire will allow people to travel westwards to Zaporizhia via the Russian-controlled port of Berdyansk. A spokesperson for the ICRC said its teams are ready to help get civilians out of Mariupol from Friday, but only if all parties agree on the terms. It's desperately important that the people operation takes place. The lives of 10,000s of people in Mariupol depends on it. The spokesperson added the BBC has spoken to the people who have managed to leave the besieged port city in the last few weeks. All of them describe a city in ruins with the entire street completely flattened. Diana Yavot, a 23-year-old student, says although some residents have escaped, all previous attempts to establish a ceasefire in Mariupol have collapsed amid accusation of bad faith from both sides. Russia has also been accused of forcefully relocating thousands of civilians to Russia or Russia-controlled areas. Capturing the city would give Russia control of the Azov Sea coastline between Russia and Crimea. The announcement of Trump follows a telephone call on Tuesday between Russia President Vladimir Putin and his French counterpart Emmanuel Macron. During the conversation, Mr. Putin said that shelling of Mariupol would not end until Ukrainian troops surrendered. This is where I end the editorial on Elena Media TV. I am Victoria, and thanks for watching.